All right, so for this game, it looks like we have what is essentially just a straight sequencing game, nothing especially exciting for this one. So we have 6 positions to work with, and we have 6 elements to put into those positions. So we have F, G, H, and then we've got K, L, and Y. And I guess from there, let's take a look at the rules. So the first rule tells us that L has to go immediately before the G. And apparently, yeah, that does say that L has to go right before, immediately before the G. Next, the second rule tells us that G has to go earlier than H, and H has to go earlier than Y. So we just have them basically in sequence. G is before H is before Y. Next, we are told that H cannot go immediately next to the K. So, I mean, we already have this H on the board here, but it's kind of hard to interconnect these rules together in a meaningful way. So I'll just do this separately. I can say that H and K simply cannot be next to each other. And lastly, F cannot be immediately next to Y. So F and Y also, these guys cannot be next to each other. And it's worth noting, we of course have a Y over there. So I guess what's worth noting already is, I mean, we have a nice sort of elastic band set up between these 4, which is great. And as far as the other 2 elements are concerned, we just have really F and K remaining. And F and K simply can't go next to these 2 over here, right? So the K can't go next to the H, and the F can't go next to the Y. So there's a bit of restriction, I suppose we could say, on the latter end, right? So on the earlier part of the board, I mean, if we wanted to have F and K there, they can do whatever, right? But if we want to place them later on the board, that gets a little bit messier. Now from there, we might be able to exhaust this based on the LG block. And whether we bother or not, this one's a bit of a coin toss in a sense. Just because, I mean, the LGHY, this is a pretty good setup already, right? That gives us probably like 95% of what we're going to need to run this game. So whether it's really worth exhausting, it's probably a bit more but again, no bad decisions in that regard. If you do, you're probably fine. If you don't, you're probably fine. For this, well, let's just go with this as is. Let's just run with what we have. So the questions, number 12, which of the following could be the sequence first to last? So as usual, we do this by the rules. First rule was that L is, once again, immediately before the G. Answer choice A has an LG block, B does as well, C does as well, D does not. We can get rid of answer choice D, and E also has an LG block, so we're good. Next, we're supposed to have basically G before H before Y, so we can kind of look for that. G, H, Y in sequence. So A has no G before H. We can get rid of answer choice A. B has G, H, Y. Yep. C has G, H, Y. We're good. And E has G, H, Y. We're good. Next, H cannot go next to K, so we just have B, C, and E. H and K are next to each other. That's not cool, so we can get rid of answer choice B. C has them separate. E has them separate. Lastly, F and Y can't be next to each other, so C has them next to each other. Not cool. That leaves us with the best answer here as answer choice E, where F and Y are in fact separated. And I guess as usual, let's just plug that into the board. So E has LGH followed by YKF. Next, from there, let's take a look at the locals. So we have question number 13. If G is immediately before K, so if we happen to have a GK, I guess that turns into an LGK block because of this guy. Oh, and that's pretty good. So now we can say that, hey, after the LGK, we still have to have H, we still have to have Y. So we have a nice chain developed. And the only real restriction now is F. F cannot go next to Y. Actually, F is the only one remaining kind of floating around. So that means that effectively, these guys Y is going to have to be in 6 because if you put F after U, it's not going to work, right? So the only person that can go last is Y. And then likewise, F can't go into 5, so the only person that could go into 5 is H. Oh, and wait a minute, H and K, these guys can't be next to each other. We actually know that they have to be separated by F. So that simplifies that even more. That means that we have to have F in 4, and then L, G, K are going to run 1, 2, 3. Nice. So the question now asks, which of the following must happen? A, F1, that doesn't have to, in fact it can't. L2, nope. K3, yes, it does. K has to go 3. The best answer for question number 13 is C. Just in case, H4, that does not, and Y5 also does not. Onwards. Question 14 is global. Actually, they're all global, so I guess we're doing things in order. So question number 14 says, the fourth float cannot be what? So what cannot go into the fourth position? Well, at the very least, we already know that Y and F could go 4, right? So that's an easy set to get rid of. We can get rid of answer choice A, and we can get rid of answer choice E, since those guys could have gone 4th. So who cannot? Well, L should stick out. Do we have an L? I guess that would be too easy. We do not have L as an answer choice. So I guess who could go 4th? Or I guess who cannot is the question, rather. I'm going to wager that it's probably one of these anti-blocks, because the thing is, G, I'm pretty sure we can actually confirm right away. So if we put an L, G, and 3, 4, we'll just have to have H followed by Y. And then the other guys are just going to go here, which is not a big deal. So G easily could have gone 4th. So that's B. So really this is just down to C and D, which is H and K. So who would have, oh, yes. So H, I think we could put H into 4 if we wanted to. For the record, you could have just arbitrarily picked one to run with and just seen where that takes you. It doesn't end up being H, but if you try to do H, if we put H into 4, then you could have arguably run K into 6 and Y into 5, and this would have been okay, right? And then the other guys are just going to shuffle around 1, 2, 3. We just have L, G, and F. But K does cause an issue, because if you put a K into number 4, notice there's basically nowhere else for the H to go, because H wouldn't be able to go next to K, so it wouldn't go into 3 or 5, but H can't go last because it has to go before Y. And H wouldn't be able to go into 1 or 2 because it has to go after LG. So K would end up screwing over the H if the K went into 4. So the best answer here is that D. K cannot go into the 4th position. Next, question number 15. The order would be locked if what? So what would lock down the game? Let's take a look. Answer choice A. F goes into the 3rd position. Well, if F went 3rd, what would that mean for us? And to be fair, I'm not sure it means much. Because if you put F into 3, well, actually, okay, no, I take that back. If you put F into 3, it would lock the LG into 1 and 2, wouldn't it? Because if F goes here, then LG can't fit down here because there's a whole bunch of guys after them. So actually, let's run this. This might have some teeth to it. If we put F here, LG go into 1 and 2, and then H and Y have to follow at some point, except H can't be next to K. There it is. So if H can't be next to K, that means that we're going to have to split them between 4 and 6, but H can't go 6. So H is going to have to go 4, K is going to have to go 6, and that leaves us with Y in 5. That takes care of it. The best answer to question number 15 is A. Now, for the record, at this stage, you probably shouldn't check the rest of the answer choices because this can be a little bit time consuming. What you could do is you could always bookmark this question if you have a bit of extra time to come back to it and check. Cool. And if not, I mean, that's pretty reliable. We're probably pretty safe with answer choice A. But let's take a look at the other ones, see how they work. Grocery store goes 4th. So if G goes into 4, would that be enough to lock the game? Well, the thing is, it would basically lock all of these guys, right? Because if G goes 4, H and Y will have to follow, and then L will go 3, so all of these will be locked out. But that would leave you with F and K. And F and K don't have any real restriction between them. They would be able to shuffle between 1 and 2, which isn't quite good enough. This wouldn't lock down the game completely. C, H goes 4. Well, if we place the H into 4, what does that do for us? Well, we've seen that actually. So this scenario right here, we've seen H and 4, but there was still flexibility between 1, 2, 3. We could have had the LG shuffle with the F. So that's not good enough. It wouldn't lock down the game. There's still variation. Answer choice D, K goes 5. Now we've seen K5 before, and that was locked, to be fair. So that's not too helpful. It doesn't prove that it would have locked it. It just has been. But if K goes 5, what does that do for us, if anything? I suppose K and H can't touch. So if K goes 5, then H would be forced to go into 3 so that we could have room for G and L. But then the other guys, F and Y, would just kind of shift between 4 and 6. They could go either way. So arguably not good enough. Yeah, in this scenario, in fact, we could have seen that F and Y basically could have shuffled. Answer choice E, L goes 3. Would that be enough to lock the game down? Actually, no, we talked about this because we've seen, wait a minute, this is logically identical to answer choice B. Because if you think about it, if L goes 3, that's the same thing as G going 4th. And if G goes 4th, then that's the same thing as L going 3rd, right? Because those would have to go hand in hand. So the same way that B didn't lock down the game, for the same reason, E wouldn't lock down the game either. Lastly, question number 16. The K must go last if which one of the following is true. So the question becomes, what would lock the K into the last position? Now notice, to be clear, this is not asking you what would happen if K goes last, basically what that would lead to. Rather, essentially what we cannot do, we can't just put K into 6 and see what happens as a consequence. No, this is the other way around. The question here is what would have forced K to go last in the first place. So let's take a look. Answer choice A. F goes first. So if the F went first, would that lock the K into 6? And to be fair, I'm not sure why. I don't see why not. In fact, if F goes first, couldn't K easily go second and the other guys, L, G, H, Y, just chill in 3, 4, 5, 6? Yeah, I don't see why that would force K6. Answer choice B. L goes second. If L goes second, would that force K6? Well, if L is in 2, that would force G into 3. But, I mean, couldn't K go first even still? And then you can kind of split F and Y between 4, 6? I don't see that necessarily does what I needed to. Answer choice C. The grocery store, yeah, that's right. The grocery store goes 3rd. Now you'll notice that answer choices B and C, these are logically identical. So this is also another opportunity to get rid of both B and C right away because they do the same thing, right? If L goes 2nd, then that would force G 3rd. And if G went 3rd, that would force L 2nd. And since these two answer choices are logically identical, they cannot both be correct, but it's impossible that one would be right, but not the other because they do the exact same thing. So they both have to be effectively wrong. Answer choice D. H goes 4th. Would H4 lock down K into 6? Well, if H goes 4th, I mean, couldn't Y still go into 6 and then couldn't K go earlier? Again, I don't see why that would. Answer choice E, Y goes 4th. Would that lock down the K into? No. Well, actually, wait, that definitely would not because we know that if Y went 4th, then, hey, these guys, we've seen this happen. You could have Y in 4th and K go elsewhere. So E is definitely wrong. Hang on, no, I must have messed up with D. H goes 4th. If H is 4th, what would that do? L and G would have to go somewhere around here. Y would have to go somewhere around there. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so check this out. If we have to have a Y somewhere here, but Y can't be with F. So that means that essentially the F can't be over here. So the F is going to shuffle somewhere over here together with LG. So that means that in the first 3 positions, we're going to have LG shuffling with F effectively. And then on the other side, what's going to end up happening? We're going to have K and we're going to have Y, except K and H are not in good terms. So K can't go next to H in 5. It's going to have to go in 6 with Y in 5. So that would force K to go into the last position. The best answer to question 16 is D.